Hi, everybody. I am Tish Hicks. I'm the Master Sensei of the VO Dojo here in Burbank, California. This is our monthly free Q&A webinar called Ask the Sensei. So it is myself, our techno sensei, Dan Lenard, the home studio master, will be joining us in just a second. And then we invite one of our esteemed colleagues to join us as a guest sensei each month and really just answer your questions. So Christi is here, and has a specific insight specialty. She's a ninja. She is the master of e-learning, but she also has a full and vibrant other voiceover career. So we're here to answer all questions. It's not just about e-learning. So feel free to ask whatever questions are on your mind right now that might help you. If you ask this question today, might help you get further where you want to be tomorrow, right? And that's how we all go through this. We're all always doing that. What's my next question? So this is a great place to be able to articulate what those questions are, and then hopefully get some other insights and answers that will keep you moving forward. Hi, Dan. There you are.
Hey, Dan.
For any confusion.
Hi, Christy.
Hi, Dan. Good to see you. Been too long.
Way too long.
I know. It's crazy.
It's like nobody sees each other anymore.
I know. Except for this little box.
Well, we're just getting started, Dan. So if you just come on the call, it looks like we've got a great critical mass here. Let's see. If you put where you're calling from in the chat, that's always great for us to know where you guys are located and where we're reaching. I put up a poll that allows us to get a sense of where people are at and how we can gauge our answers. And then it's a question and answer webinar, so we will be taking questions from the Q&A box down there, sort of in order of appearance, and then shifting for maximization. So with that, why don't we introduce Dan? Dan, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll have Christi introduce her, and then we'll open up to questions.
Okay. Hi, I'm Dan Lenard, the home studio master. There's almost nobody that teaches you about home voiceover studios because no one understands this stuff. Everybody's a vocal coach. Your home voiceover studio is not rocket science, and my job is to teach you how to do it properly and to get you off Facebook forums and listening to everybody who's an expert in one studio, their own.
Yeah, and the reason that we love having Dan on the team as our techno sensei is at the dojo we're always about like how can you be thinking about things, how can you set a framework of understanding and then be able to answer things yourself or have the people that are resources, and Dan just cuts right to the chase with that, simplifies it and focuses it. No kidding. Yeah, and Christi, so glad you came with us. And I know you've been on Ask the Sensei in an earlier date, so it's great to have you back. And then our relation, like you've added titles and responsibilities and things that you're doing since then. So
yes, it is. It's crazy. I've been full time. I guess coming up in December it'll be 10 years. 9 years, 10 years, but I've been doing voiceover in that world for a long time, 25 plus years. Started in radio in college and, kind of hated being a DJ, loved doing the writing, producing, and writing commercials and voicing commercials. So that's kind of where the love started. But, after moving into full-time voiceover, e-learning is kind of what I fell into, honestly, just from a series of clients that I picked up, and it just kind of became the thing I really, really enjoyed doing the most, and kind of started off doing that. I do a lot of other things as well, automotive and political voiceover. I love that, believe it or not. Even though crazy times we live in, still love it. But I've just, e-learning is kind of the thing I've developed a kind of a following in, and spoken at different conferences about it. And then also, speaking of conferences, was going to be the producer of VO Atlanta this, past March when it was supposed to happen, but pulled the plug week and a half before it went on. But doing that. And then I also have taken on a position at ACM Talent, being their director of corporate and e-learning. So I'm, reaching out to try to get business and develop that. So yeah, it's a busy world. Lots going on.
And you're based in Nashville, right?
Yes, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee.
And I think that's, I love talking with you, because I think you really embody what's been happening in the business, that you can build your life. You make choices about the work you're doing, and you can build your life from wherever you are. And I think you're a real testament to that. So
thank you. I think, that's one of the appeals of e-learning as well, is that it is one of those things that you don't have to be in LA or New York for. I mean, and most of the time e-learning is not done in a Source Connect or a ISDN session or anything else. Sometimes if you use those words with the clients, they're like, what is that?
What is that?
They don't even know what that is, because it's just, they just send you a script, you do it, and you send it back. So there are times when, if that's something that you can't get, you don't feel like investing in, maybe this is kind of something you're getting into as far as you're wanting to develop a full-time career. E-learning is kind of an attractive thing, kind of like audiobooks are. There's a lot of need for it, and it just is something that a lot of people with their previous skill sets, or maybe even current skill sets of being in some form of business or teaching or whatever, e-learning tends to be something that people will have a natural leaning towards doing. So.
Yeah, and Dan, among his many other things, is also a very powerful educator too. Has a education background, so you have a lot of insights into the e-learning as well, Dan.
Absolutely, yeah, Dan does definitely.
Here's a question. Just it seems to me that if you think of different genres of, well, I mean, even different genres of narration as like track meet events, it's sort of like there's like maybe an explainer video. It's not quite 100-yard dash, but kind of like that. And then would you say e-learning is like middle distance, and then audiobooks are like a marathon, long distance? Is that an accurate way to start creating?
Yeah, I think e-learning is kind of a cross-country meet. I mean, that's longevity to it. Yeah, that's longevity to it, but yet there's all these peaks and valleys of you never know what you're going to get. I mean, it's, an audiobook is an audiobook. You're telling a story, even if it's nonfiction. It's a book. It's written by somebody that has a story, and so you're kind of telling a story. And sometimes e-learning can be a little confusing. It's like, it's more about getting information out there, and sometimes there are very creative instructional designers and people who create a thread and a story through it. Other times it's just, this is the information we have to throw at our client, at our workforce, just say these words, and they don't necessarily design it as a story. It's just, this is what we have to say. It's been approved by all the people that need it to be approved by,
Right.
So I think it can sometimes be a little less clear-cut path. You kind of go over and a whole bunch of hills and valleys at times, and sometimes you get into the woods, and sometimes you come out and you're on a flat path. You never know. Cross country is probably the best way to describe it. I'm sure, I don't know if you agree or not, but well, you never know what you're going to get with an e-learning script. I mean, they're all completely different.
Yeah, it's usually a matter of how experienced the client is, because you have so many new people and so many companies now going to virtual learning. I mean, the last 8 months has been pretty amazing with that, and they've all got to do it virtually. And some of them, I used to call them corporate weenies who have no idea what they're doing. They'll toss you a script, and then they're like, oh, I don't even know what format it should be in. This is your opportunity to educate them.
Absolutely.
And really, one of the ways that you can create a good business with e-learning is educating your clients and showing them that you're going to make their life a lot easier.
Excellent. Well, I think that's one of the interesting things to understand, like who is, as voiceover entrepreneurs, who are our clients. So when we're working on a big commercial campaign, then we become part of the team of the advertising agency that is working with their clients to get this message across. And in e-learning, it's more about understanding how corporate world works and how do we fit in to serve what that team. Would it be a marketing team? Who or training team? How would you articulate that? Like who are the people that we're joining the team of?
It depends, and that's the thing about e-learning. Whether it comes to rates and script formats and file formats. I mean, everything in e-learning is completely different all the time. And that's what's kind of frustrating about it when people are like, well, how do you do that? How do you price it? Well, it depends. And I hate giving that answer, but it's the truth, because I have a whole bunch of, long-term e-learning clients and none of them are the same. Nothing's the same. Other than the fact that I invoice them and they pay me. That's the only thing that's the same. I think a lot of it has to do with whether you're dealing with an e-learning company that has been hired by the end client, Fortune 1000 company here, list here, then it's, either you're working with one of those middlemen clients, sometimes a group of people within that entity, sometimes just one. You could be dealing with a freelance instructional designer or content creator, which, they may used to have worked for a big company and now they're on their own, or that they're always a contractor. They just go from large corporation to large corporation doing work for them. Or you could be working within the training and development. Sometimes it's called learning and development. Sometimes it's called instructional design department. It totally depends because every company is different. Sometimes you're working with the people in HR. You could be, and then other times you're working with people in marketing. I mean, it totally depends on what they're trying to train you on, what aspect of the company. Something like Coca-Cola could have 15 different departments needing training, and it's not all going to funnel through one person, or maybe it does, So, I mean, it totally depends. You could be hired in multiple different areas within one very large corporation. If it's a smaller company and they're just doing it internally, you may be just dealing with that one person whose job it is, to get the training from you. So you never know. You never know who you're going to be working with. But normally you are working with a team of some form, because you may only be working with one person, but they're dealing with a whole bunch of others. Most of the time you won't even know who all they are. Subject matter experts, fellow instructional designers sometimes, fellow maybe I have one client that is part of, a Fortune 100 company, and then they have a division. There are 5 divisions within the company, but this one division, is hired me through a freelance guy who works with another woman who is kind of on salary, but she's kind of, it's kind of weird. She kind of has a foot in being on her own, but yet with the company, and she's also the subject matter expert. So it's just like this convoluted, okay, yeah. So you never know who you're going to get. I mean, it started out me working with one guy who used to email me all the time, and now the subject matter expert's the one who is constantly emailing me instead. She's kind of taken the point while he's still creating the content and utilizing my voice and putting it into the learning process. But she's the one that now, because she's, the subject matter expert, she's making sure the pronunciations are correct. And sometimes they reword things because they find out their learners need it to be worded differently. So she's always sending me updates. So you never know what's going to happen with it. It morphs a lot.
So it sounds like if e-learning is something that you're interested in adding to your voiceover arsenal of opening up another division of your voiceover career, that it really behooves you to get an understanding of what the whole thing is, so then you're able to serve your client, right? You want to hire a plumber who's like, no, how does this thing work? Like, so, right, like, how does you tell me how it works, right? So that you want to have some ability. And then I'm sure people are like, we love your voice, that will show you how to do it. it sounds like you also learn by developing relationships with each client, just as you do with anything else.
Yeah, you really do. You learn how they all want to work. You know, it just
Yeah.
works and changes over time. So
Yeah. I like that idea of like, we're starting another department of our voiceover, that it might run differently, and who we're reaching out to and how we're serving is a different thing. Cool. Well, the one last thing that I want to say about e-learning is it also seems like a really nice balance of time, effort, and compensation. That, you know, audiobooks is its own awesome, beloved, auspicious ecosystem. It's a lot of work for a lot of work, important work, etc. A lot of work and a lot of time commitment, and a certain amount of money.
yeah,
You know, and obviously, you know, everybody should have a big commercial campaign. It's what we all want to have also in our arsenal. And those are like, hey, 30 minutes a month. All right.
yeah.
So it does seem like e-learning is someplace that you can create consistent relationships that you are in, that you create.
Yeah.
Right. And maintain, and then that the compensation is actually you paid like actual grown up
The
money.
one thing about e-learning that's so great is that there are always revisions and changes, and there's always additions. I mean, almost every project I've ever worked on has had something at some point in time. Well, I think I keep saying 6 years, it may be 7 years now, but I had one client come back to me like 6 years later saying, oh my gosh, something changed. It was, you know, something illegal. We had to change a whole bunch of things. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough that it was going to significantly impact them if I couldn't redo it, because they were going to have to do the whole thing over again. And I was able to match it, fix it, do it. And, you know, they even gave me a bonus because I saved their bacon. So, I mean, you know, yeah, the great thing about
a valuable part of the product.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you know, in some ways, e-learning is the gift that keeps on giving, which is what's so great about it, you know, because in commercial campaigns, they can easily replace you at a certain point because they take a different direction, you know.
That's a really interesting perspective. Yeah. So
yeah, I've had a client that, you know, I did their entire catalog of instructional videos about their product line for a number of years. They couldn't get rid of me. I knew the stuff better than they did. It was a big lock distributorship training locksmiths how to install locks, which has been great since I just installed a new lock on my front door.
Amazing what you learn.
I mean, e-learning is fascinating because, you know, you've got everybody's like, oh, I want to be in commercials and stuff like that. And commercials are this little tiny slice of voiceover. And clearly, because we have so many people joining us this morning, they realize that that's where the work is. If you want a steady stream of work every day, or at least much more regular, that e-learning and corporate narration is really the way to go with this, which means there'll now be 80, 85 or 86 more people trying to compete for this.
Exactly. The other thing too is that, oh crud, I forgot what I was going to say. You said something, Dan, and I was like, oh yeah. I think one of the things that's also good about it is that it's steady work, yes, but it takes time. I mean, it's a long game. This is not a short game. It's a long game, and it is steady work, but it's also one of those things that is a little less high pressure because you kind of can do it on your own schedule. You know, if you happen to be part-time or, you know, have a full-time job and it's something you could do at different hours, that's why a lot of people get into it and do like it. You know, and maybe they want to devote their time to doing the big auditions and things, but yet fill in the work with, you know, with the e-learning. So yeah, it's a great space to be in. I hate saying that sometimes because Dan's right. It's like, okay, more competition, but no, it just is what it is. You know, you have to figure out the best way to move it forward for your business. So, and I know we have a lot of questions too, which is great.
Let's start jumping in. So Catherine is based in Minneapolis. I would like to know the importance of using social media, especially LinkedIn, and how effectively and efficiently to use it, which is also, I associate this as one of your specialties, Christi. I don't know if you say that as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things with LinkedIn, you know, is that, well, let me put it this way. You have to remember the biggest thing, my biggest key to e-learning is it's business to business. Which means Facebook is not going to be the best place for that, just because that's more, most people see it as a personal. Even if there are business pages on there, people aren't conducting, I don't think, as much business per se on Facebook as they are on LinkedIn. So, and also Twitter. Twitter tends to be the place where instructional designers like to be. They share information with each other. They're constantly posting, you know, the latest and greatest information and infographics and articles about what's changing in e-learning and the science behind it. And while that may not be as appealing to you, that's where they converse with each other. So they live on Twitter a lot more. But when it comes to LinkedIn, that's where people are posting who they are based on their profession. You know, what company they work for, because they, you know, that's our professional face of ourselves. So that's where most people will be listed, and you can find out about more what they do, you know, what their title is, and would they, you know, would it look like they actually hire voice actors. So being on LinkedIn and having a really good profile, and Tracy Lindley's course on LinkedIn is fantastic. Super, super amazing on how to, you know, get the most profile and contact people in the best way and present yourself on LinkedIn. You know, LinkedIn is definitely one of the best places to go, just because it's a great way to find these instructional designers who are creating this content, you know, and that would hire us. Right. So definitely highly suggest that. But also, the other thing about your online, it's not just about LinkedIn. What you were asking, Catherine, was everything. You really need to have a very solid website, because again, businesses want to do business with a solid, reputable business. They're going to look you up. They're going to be looking at you through the point of view lens of hiring another vendor. If you don't have a good, decent website for them to realize who you are as a business person, they might be less likely to want to hire you compared to the 10 other voice actors they're looking at. You have to have a very solid presence, because they're going to be looking at you to develop a relationship with another business, because they have to then sell you as a part of the team or another vendor to the corporate higher ups, maybe the head of HR, whatever it is, you know, the head of training department, you know, maybe even the CEO. So if you have a reputable website that showcases you, and also within your social media, that all those things, you know, kind of blend and look like you are cohesive, that's going to be a really big business foot forward for these people who are hiring you. Hopefully that helps, Catherine.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's another question from Donna about tone. How do you know when to be more dramatic or conversational? What's your thoughts on that?
Two things. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, yeah, it's acting. I mean, if you know how to, you know, interpret a script, generally they're going to tell you how they want it. And, you know, it depends on remember, there's a couple of different points to e-learning. You've got just explanatory kind of stuff, you know, click on this, do that, do this sort of thing. And then one of the other things they like to do is have, you know, role-playing situations and stuff where they've got you actually, you know, like, well, thank you for coming into my office, Joan. We're going to talk about this new plan that we're doing, you know, and then, you know, they mix and match all these voices and stuff like that. And that's really voice acting. The other stuff is like essentially like being in front of a classroom. And how would you teach a particular class? Who's the audience? What's the age? What is their occupation? You've got to ask all those who, what, why, where, and when questions like you would with any script. So,
and I think also the script will tell you. I mean, you have to, and the problem is though, sometimes once you've been doing this for a while, sometimes you forget to scan it as much. You're just like, okay, yeah, the client again. You know, you have to kind of scan the script. I mean, it could be 59 pages long. It could be 5 pages long, but you still have to scan it really quickly to kind of get the feel and the tone. Because, you know, the first couple of slides might be that very normal instructional kind of thing, you know, welcome and here's what you do and click this button and blah, 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 and turn on the audio, whatever. But, you know, later on, all of a sudden it gets really conversational. Or maybe it gets even more formal. Maybe they start out kind of, you know, slack, and all of a sudden you get into the heart of the content and you're like, oh my God, I don't even know what I'm saying. You know, so you have to look at the script for clues as to how they've written it. That'll tell you whether it's going to be more conversational, and also you ask your client, you know, because if they don't tell you, most of the time they will. I mean, I've had a lot of clients say, hey, you know, all those other things you did for us recently were kind of more businessy. This client is really wanting that conversational style. They want it to be completely laid back. You're like, okay, so ask your client, you know, I mean, definitely. And that's not a bad
attire is expected, almost like, am I showing up in my three-piece suit for the presentation at the big event in Sweden? Is it a backyard barbecue, right? Like, what should I wear, right?
Yeah, it really is. It's very similar. And don't be afraid to ask the client. I mean, if it's a new client and it's a really long script, I would suggest sending them a sample of the first 2 or 3 slides, depending on how long they are, maybe even more, and then just saying, hey, and give them 2 different styles. Give them a little more formal, straightforward if the script looks like it, or if they haven't said anything, and then maybe if the second one is a little more conversational, kind of laid back, because styles are changing. Conversational it's that word that's gone over from commercial into e-learning, and those 2 worlds don't really ever speak to each other, but yet they're picking up on that conversational thing too. It's because it's what they're hearing on commercials. So they don't even realize they're doing it or why they're doing it, but they are. People have kind of gotten away from that whole, I'm standing in front of the class telling you what you need to know. You know, they're kind of getting that whole, yeah, let me help you out with this. Yeah, you're my buddy, you're my coworker, you're my friend. Yeah, did you hear about the new training we've got to do? Yeah. I mean, so you kind of have to find out where your client is in that space, because sometimes they want it super formal. If you're speaking to a whole bunch of doctors who have no time and they're like, spit it out, get it out, get it done. I mean, they really do. They want it as fast as possible because these people are busy. Right. So you have to know your audience, like Dan said. So.
Excellent. Well, look, Catherine, we've answered one of your questions, so I'm going to skip down to a couple of these, but your question is important. So let's kind of combine Barbara and Jennifer's questions. What are strategies working to get e-learning? What are strategies working to get e-learning projects, and how to start doing corporate narration, which also might segue into Catherine's question about compilation demos and what is needed to start presenting yourself in this work most effectively. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like anything. Self-marketing is the best way for e-learning. I'm not on very many pay-to-plays anymore, hardly any at all. But when I first started, everybody was. That's where I picked up a lot of my clients, and they're long-term clients now. So having a presence on some of those, I mean, and everyone has their own views on this. I'm going to leave that alone. But pay-to-plays are sometimes a way to get introduced to some of these clients. Be careful of the rates. I will just give that caveat. But, putting yourself out there, it's all about self-marketing when it comes to e-learning. Because again, business to business. That's harder. It is a long-term game. It takes a long time. I'm not going to lie to you. It is hard. But it's really just building up those communication skills with reaching out to these businesses through LinkedIn, through emails, through reaching out, online to the companies. That's really how to try to get those company, to get that business. You have to, figure out what parts of the company to reach out to, whether it's the training development or HR, finding on LinkedIn who the instructional designers are, whatever. When it comes to corporate narration, it's kind of the same I mean, it's very similar. That probably more falls under the marketing department, I guess I would say, in a lot of ways, because whether it's internal marketing or external marketing, they're probably the ones creating the corporate videos about, rah, look at us, look what we've done. It could be an internal video of, over the past 2 years, our corporate entity has changed and grown, and then there's we have a new product and we're going to launch it and we want to do an explainer video kind of corporate thing. So it's really contacting these companies. Yeah. Corporate narration, I think you can find a lot more in the pay-to-play space. just because I think they tend to, yeah, I'm glad Dan's agreeing with me here.
Yeah,
Because
they have no idea what they're looking for, so they just
they throw a wide net. Yeah, they throw the wide net. So, yeah, and I hope that helps. As far as the compilation demos and stuff, I think you really need to have two because they are very different in styles. I mean, you could use an e-learning demo for a narration kind of thing if the piece is long enough. It's probably better to have two because an e-learning demo should have a lot of dry tracks to it because they want to just hear your voice because almost all e-learning is dry. It might start out with a piece of music at the beginning, but it shifts into just nothing but your voice. Corporate narration you can have a lot more fun with. You know, corporate demo you can have a lot more fun with sound effects and music and making it, you know, very much, you know, present the, you know, the company information that you're trying to narrate. So I think they really should be different, but you can just, if you just have one, I think it could work for you as long as they can hear your voice and understand what you can do. I think that's the most important thing. Sending a commercial demo is not the best, only because
actually help them with what
knowing most of the time you're not doing sales. Yeah. And they're so produced because that's the market you're going for. And I like to say that most people in e-learning don't understand the Hollywood mentality. And I always do the Hollywood mentality because it really is. It's a totally different mindset. You're talking about people in suits, business people in suits versus the creative minds of a, you know, of a ad agency.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that helps answer all of those things.
Now here's something. So you're articulating that there is such thing as compilation demos that could be like a trailer video of all the things you could do. But you're saying, you're saying, if you're going after e-learning work, understand what are the nuances and what is an arc of where your voice serves in e-learning. Maybe that formal to informal, serious to little kids or something, like if your voice serves that.
Right.
And would you, since it really is just raw tracks and everybody who's working now kind of needs to have their home studio be what is being delivered, is it something that if you get some insights on how it works, what makes a good demo, that it is something that you could create yourself?
I wouldn't create a demo myself. I think you could send a short piece as an example to somebody if you don't have a formal e-learning demo. I would never advocate creating something for yourself. Yes, even if it's work you've done, I would still get someone who is a much better editor than you, who understands how to put things together, EQ things nicely, you know, send them your raw tracks and have them put things together in an order. You can work on the order yourself and say, hey, here's my 6 pieces. Can you make them sound pretty? You know, so to give it maybe, you know, under a couple of pieces, add some music and that kind of thing. Not the whole, not all of it. But I think you need to have somebody to produce it and it needs to come out of your head and hear somebody else's ears and somebody else's mind, because that's what's going to give you a better perspective on it. I mean, you can say to them, here are 10 or 12 tracks that I really like. Create something for me. Maybe start with this one. I really want to start with this one or end with this one and then see what they come up with. And you can always tweak it. But yeah, you need a demo producer of some kind, or, you know, somebody who's really a very good editor and good at production to make
what makes a competitive demo.
Yeah.
Dan, I know you work with people on the technical and guide people as well. What's your take on this?
Well, I mean, you know, when we teach you how to build a home studio, it should be as good as anybody else's for a commercial or whatever. And, you know, people tend to really overthink that. I got to have the best equipment. I've got to spend all sorts of money, and I've got to do all, because let me tell you something. It's never the microphone that's going to get you the work. It's your ability to communicate the material that you are trying to communicate. Everything with a home studio is physical. How you're set up. What are the acoustics of your room? How do you use the microphone? How do you set levels? Other than that, everything you read in Facebook forums is all complete nonsense. Just
so
get it right up front.
So assuming you have your home studio and it's like able to deliver a professional product that clients are happy with and ready to put on the air. What's your take on how I'm working with a demo producer? And it sounds like what you're saying, Christi, and I'm getting a sense, Dan, as well. If you want to get in the game at a competitive level, it behooves you to have a car that can go on that racetrack.
Yes. Yeah, you've got to have the good sound quality for that demo producer who is just another set of ears and another brain to work with you on it. It should sound good to start with. What you send them from your home studio should be fantastic, nice quality. They just can either give it a little, spit and polish and just put it in an order and maybe edit it in a way that you didn't think of and just, give it something that you don't, they can just, you give them the raw materials and they're the chef that makes that steak sizzle even better. They just have that extra thing to it to make it, make it great. So I think that's what I would suggest when it comes to demos. Yes, you can send a nice, a piece of something or maybe like 2 little samples to somebody just to say, hey, here's some, as long as you're not under NDA and it's okay with the client. Just that caveat. With e-learning, the majority of what you do will probably be under NDA. Just saying.
Good to know.
It's mostly internal corporate narration. A lot of it will be. Not everything, but a lot of it will be.
Gobstoppers? How to make gobstoppers? What?
Yeah, exactly. So you don't want to share the, the behind the scenes stuff. But, if you're allowed to share a piece or 2 here and there, those are things you can send until you either get a really good demo, just as long as they can hear your voice without sending them a commercial demo,
So it also sounds like it might be like, yeah, you can do your own hair, but if you're getting married, you have a stylist come.
Exactly.
I know the whole haircut thing is a whole thing.
Yeah,
right?
but no, that's a great analogy. That's a great analogy. So, yeah.
Let's keep on going with questions.
Yeah. Wow.
Anonymous attendee. For any of us who've already have corporate narration clients, but haven't yet had success finding door openings in the e-learning space as well, what suggestions do you have for seeking those clients' opportunities? So building on a start. I think that's the question. Is that right, Anonymous?
It sounds like it. Yeah, it just, I think sometimes working with those clients, especially if they happen to work for the company itself versus being a producer that maybe, is doing, or maybe an animation house that's doing some corporate narration. If you happen to be working for the company itself or somebody that, is with that company, just, after maybe a little while, month or 2 after doing that narration gig, just reaching out and saying, hey, are there any other opportunities within the company? How'd the project go? Whatever. And then are there any opportunities within your company to do any kind of corporate narration or corporate training? Is there somebody in it? Do you have a training department? I would probably research it first, find out if that company does have a training department, or if that they happen to have that person's email or contact information online for whatever company you worked for, reach out and say, hey, I recently worked with Dan on a corporate narration for your company and I really enjoyed it. I think, the company's great. Do you ever create any internal e-learning, or training? And is that something you can help with?
The relationship.
Yeah, build on the relationship you've already created.
In the same way we do with our friends. Like, oh, I met you through my brother's friend, so we should be friends too.
Right.
Networking is vital with anything. I mean, even in commercial, but definitely with corporate. If you meet somebody at a party, even though you'll be 6 feet apart,
yes.
and they say, oh, I work for this company, and you're exchanging, or if you meet somebody at a conference or something like that, or, just you meet people who aren't in voiceover, they're in corporate work. The question I always ask is, oh, do you do training? And who's the person that does that stuff? Can I have their name and can I contact them? Because that's the source of where it all is. So you've got to, I used to say, who's the guy? But it's like, no, now who's the person?
Yeah.
So that's really the person who is in charge of making the training stuff. That's the person you got to talk to, not their assistant, not somebody who's like somewhere down the line. You've got to do your research. You've got to find out what this company's all about. And It also helps if you know a little bit about what it is they do.
Mm.
And I think
Yes.
one of the most important skills you can have, or at least characteristics that you have, is cultural literacy, because so much of what is out there, do you understand technology? Do you understand industry? Do you understand public safety? If you have a wide knowledge of things, if you understand what it is they're talking about, even though it may not be an industry you've ever done anything with, but if you know what it is they do and why they do it and how they do it, it gives you the ability to sound like you actually know what you're talking about.
Mm. And can help them.
Yeah.
Right?
Really,
Yeah.
what's really most important with any e-learning thing, that you're able to connect with the person, with the learner. And it's like it's something for construction workers. Okay, we're going to look at your PPE now. So
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
My what?
Yeah.
Yeah. My imagination goes like, well, could you also look at building new clients by looking at who you already know? Like, oh, my sister works at Pepsi. Maybe she knows, like someone who knows that business, that knows the people, and could easily ask the question, like, oh, you know someone who works there? Like, can you ask the question because they know who it is? So then you start thinking about how do you become less rando and more like, hey, so-and-so said, or I know you through, or we went to the same, or
Yeah, those are
so,
great ways.
yeah.
Yeah, those are great ways. So hopefully that helps answer that question.
Well, let's keep on going because we have so many great questions.
Yeah.
Tara, I think we've got you're covered. Is it okay to send an educational instructional audiobook? I think that would fall in the sample, like send a little sample if that's something kind of like it, and then see how it goes. Rita says, is there someone you can recommend who can help with auditions? I'm very often shortlisted, but have very few jobs where I'm selected and need to know what I'm missing. Well, the Dojo is an educational place. We're always happy to help with that. We have working pro level classes, the Nth degree. That is a weekly workout and twice a month focus action forum. So if you're at that level, which it sounds like you are, if you're getting avails and callbacks. So we have that set up. Dan, you do some coaching. How do people keep in touch with you?
They can go to homevoiceoverstudio.com, where I will teach you from soup to nuts how to properly set up a home studio in your particular space.
And what about the audition coaching?
Yeah, and I do direction. For $25. I'll look at a script. Actually, I don't even want to look at the script. What I want to do is hear how you do the script, and do I believe you? And how do I get you to be more believable in that? Because, when you're sitting in your car and you hear a commercial or something like that, you're not watching it, you're hearing it, and you're hearing the conversation with somebody. You've got to be able to not sound like you're reading it. And that, which is, by the way, the major key to being good at voiceover.
Yeah.
So what I do is I have some techniques to get you out of your head and into thinking about what it is you're actually talking about and who you're talking to.
I like this distinction you make too, Dan. There's coaching modality. This is a way that we work at the dojo. There's coaching modality and there's direction modality. And as I said, Dan's like really like, let's get her done. So it sounds like you approach it like direction modality. Here's what I hear, do this, which is what happens in a session. So how we talk about it at the dojo is there's coaching modality where we're working together to develop and expand and broaden how you get to finding your ins or making the next level of choices, either that's nuances or different takes, and how you do that. And then direction modality is just do it. Right? So you coach to develop your skills to be able to, when someone says, do this, you go, okay, I'm going to warm it up. That means I'll smile. That means I'll do, you do all those things so you can deliver. So that's
rarely will you get any direction on e-learning. And Christi will tell you, it's like, they'll say, just, do this, like, who it is the audience is. and they've already hired you because they like your voice, so go with whatever it is that they hired you for. And rarely are there directed sessions with this, because boy, something that long would get really expensive.
Yeah, I mean, there are some that do, and there are some e-learning producers, you know, and companies that do like to do directed sessions, but that they normally work with people who've been doing it for a very long time and who are really, really good at cold reading, because you just don't get the script in enough time. Or it could be, like I said, 15 to 20, 59 pages long. You're not reading that. It's not like an audiobook where you you don't read that stuff beforehand. You scan, you highlight things that may have, you know, acronyms or something that they don't have a key for, how you need to say. But other than that, you are cold reading. And that's the other thing about e-learning that you have to be really good at. You have to be really good at cold reading and picking up instantly where the pauses need to be, you know, what kind of acronyms, what the story is, without knowing what, you know, there's a story there. I mean, that's a lot of, yeah, definitely some stuff that just happens right immediately.
And a lot of it is modular, and and it's, you know, sometimes it can be 90 slides. How do you create, you know, 90 individual files and stuff like that? I mean, I've got a way of doing it, you know, using a clicker, slide 2, slide 3, and then when you go through and edit, you can place markers and and you know, and then name the markers, and then just hit okay, separate by markers, and
which is a whole nother aspect of e-learning. There's creating your work, understanding the workflow, understanding the needs, understanding how to create your workflow, which I know, Christi, you have an amazing video course that you offer, right?
Yes.
That we'll make sure that we talk about it at the end and people know how to access that. And then later this month, we have a new offering at the Dojo in our Working Pro division, which we call the Dojo Go Guide series, where we invite Dojo members who have had success in different genres to come and share their experience getting started in the last few years of how they did it, what they've done, best practices, pitfalls, how they got started. So it's a combination of inside the actor studio and a tasty video, because we want you to leave with kind of like, here's a little checklist of good things to think about or good actions that you could take. So it's kind of a snapshot of it, right?
Yeah.
But so it sounds like there's layers to learning this sport, right? This genre that will be part of the development of your e-learning division, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then one last thing, Rita, if you're talking about in general, if you're at a place with a working pro, as a working pro, keep on asking the decision makers. Like, keep on putting yourself in situations where you're getting input or feedback with the decision makers. So if you're already working and you're almost there, you're getting avails, you're on people's lists, first of all, for your soul, understand that if you're on avail, that means it was between you and someone else or two people. So someone in that room that's making the decisions knows your name and was either vying for you or you're in the mix, right? Oh, I know that name. I know that person. I know that voice. What else is that, right? So first of all, just for your soul, understand that's really good, because there's going to be something that someone believes in you for. The other thing is, how do you start building more relationships? So if you start coaching with casting directors that coach, call Sam Ufrit and Jim Kennelly at Lotus. They are the most generous people. Later this month, Carly Silver from Sound and Fury is going to be coming to our Fight Club, which is our working pro workout. Tina Marasco was just there. They, coach when they have time. So start developing relationships with investing time so that you get one-on-one time with people who are making the decisions, as well as doing your coaching, right? So that's another. I think when we move to the working pro level, there's a whole another bag of questions, level of questions. Joe asks if we are going to get a copy. Yes, we send out a copy, a link. So in the next day or so, you should get that. Here's a question about K through 12 e-learning, which is a very specific niche, right? Where do I begin with resources to find clients in that genre?
You know, that's an interesting one. I mean, they're going to be, most of the time you have to Google these companies anyway. And, you know, honestly, Googling K through 12 content creators, and it needs to be custom content. Those are the big words because, you know, there's going to be a lot of content out there, but it has to be custom content. You know, you just have to, it honestly is a Google search. It's a way to figure that out. There are a lot of e-learning directories and things, and there might, sometimes they're broken down into what kinds of things they offer, what, you know, what genres and specific areas they focus on, because there are some for medical, there's stuff for corporate marketing, there's stuff for corporate management, for leadership, you know, there's got to be a, you know, education, and then within education there's K through 12. So if that's, you know, an area that you're really good at, you just have, it really, it's on you to do the research, and it really is it's a Google search, really. There's not, to my knowledge, and Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, a repository that I know of where it just all those companies come together. There might be something within the K through 12 space where a lot of the people who are created content for the K through 12 area might be located, and you can reach out to them. That's not really a space I play in as much, so I don't really have any insights into particular companies to look for. So,
go ahead.
I've done a lot of that type of work. It's, you know, the interesting story with it is it's a complete world is flat type of thing.
Yeah.
I was hired by this one company that was owned by a gentleman in California who owned a company in Bangalore that was producing animations for a software company in Seattle that was producing math and science content for the Texas public schools. And I narrated, hundreds and hundreds of hours of stuff with this. And then he's like, well, do you know anybody else that does this kind of stuff? I also want kids' voices. And I suddenly became a producer. And I was suddenly getting, it's like, telling other voice actors, hey, you want your kids to pay the rent? And if your studio is good enough, here's the scripts and stuff like that. And I was able to get other people hired. And there is an entire educational world out there, and everything is going online. So anything that's pre-produced, I mean, look at the major publishers, Ansco and some of the other major educational publishers. Type of education.
Look at your kids or your cousins or your nephews.
Where's this material? It's all online right now. This is such an amazing opportunity because the world has just changed in the last 6 months. Everything has gone online. Some will go back to the classroom, but in the classroom, a lot of lazy teachers are going to go, oh, I can just do it online, on this screen here. And there's going to be a big demand for people who can do this type of work, that know how to teach and can teach the subject matter in that particular genre. So if you have a teaching degree, or if you know how to work with kids and stuff like that, understand that if you're working with first graders, you have to talk a lot slower. If you're dealing with high school students, like I used to do when I taught high school, it's like, all right.
Get their attention. Stop it. One of the things that Dan mentioned there, and this is another secret to e-learning, is you have to have a large group of friends that that do it, that you trust, that can provide stuff, because another way to make money with e-learning is by becoming basically a de facto producer, or project manager, as they like to refer to it, because your clients will always come to you and say, okay, Christi, we love you. You've narrated all our stuff, and we want you to be the narrator, but we also need to split it between you and a guy. So that's when you're like, I got guys. I've got Dan, I got Paul, I got these, and so you have to have a list of people that are the opposite sex from you, because they'll always ask you as the, if they're coming to me, they're like, well, we love you as our female voice, but now we need a male voice too, because I can't do the male voice thing. So you want to have people from the opposite sex of you, but you also need to have people who are different ages, different ethnicities, maybe different accents, or can do different accents believably. Somebody maybe that, speaks very good English, but has a Spanish accent, or maybe has whatever it is, because they're creating scenarios. But maybe there's only 2 or 3 of those within the larger context of the project. So you're hired to do the biggest part of the project, and there's only 1 or 2 little sentences here and there for a few other people. But if you can manage all that, You charge a fee for it, first of all. You round up all your friends, you send them the demos, they choose who they want, you contract with your friends, you get their audio, you put it in. I mean, it's project management, but it sets you apart. It gives you another opportunity to earn money. Your friends love you, and then hopefully well, they do, because you've gotten them a job. So now
you get them work.
Yeah, you get them work, but also it's reciprocal. So the next time they have a project that they're like, oh yeah, we need another voice, they're like, oh yeah, Christi hired me recently, so I'm going to throw this to her. It's a win-win for everybody.
And then again, here's the foundation. How do you build your career? Relationship, showing up, helping out, being of service.
Well, you still want to be their first call. Even if you can't do that particular project, you want to be the first person they think of. Even if you aren't the person they need at that exact moment. I have people come to me all the time. Hey, we love you, but now they're wanting a guy. And instead of trying to do this search on our own, we figured we'd come to you. You probably know somebody and can recommend somebody that is top notch.
And then you're the winner because you helped them. You got your friend a job. You're golden. Yeah. How do you make everyone golden? That's great.
Well, and to me, I'm a winner even if I'm not getting the money, because I'm still the first person they thought of.
Exactly. And that's the relationship. The real win is the relationship, right? That's the
Absolutely.
that's the long-term game. That's the 25-year career game, right? That's the mindset. Yeah. Wow. We are coming up at 11 o'clock. So what I'd love to do is we've got a lot of things coming up at the dojo that I want to share with you. Sometimes, Christi and Dan, you know this, if anyone has time to stay on for a few minutes and answer some questions typed in. You don't have to. It's all gravy from here because we try and keep it a tight hour. I'm wondering if there's just some quick, let's do a 1 minute lightning round of answering some questions quickly. Union or non-union? E-learning, like jurisdiction. How does that roll?
Mostly non-union. However, you can convert it to union.
Right, because
it's not really necessarily governed per se, but you can turn it union through a paymaster, but most of it is non-union.
Okay, good to know. We talked about that. Dan, do you want to grab this quick? Well, actually, you know what? Why don't Tatiana has a setup question, but it sounds like you might be able to help her more specific. A noisy house issue.
Yeah. Well, as we always say, you live where you choose to live. If you got a noisy house, you either have to invest a lot of money in soundproofing or be very, very distinct and direct with your roommates to be quiet. Or if you've got air conditioning noise, all those sorts of things. Right. If there are things that you can't control, then it's not a good place to do it. You've got to find another place to record.
Tatiana, touch base. Are you? If you're in LA, I might have an opportunity for you. So, yeah. Good. Let's see if there's any other quick ones that we can.
Jason has one that I could answer real quick. Vocal trends in e-learning right now, honestly, what's hot is conversational. Very, very conversational. You are sitting next to a colleague. It's like, let's go through this together. Let's be, hey, did you happen to see this? And oh, by the way, up in the right-hand corner, if you need to find out more information, just click on that. It's very conversational. Instead of standing in front of the room, delivering your content, or, your training, it seems to be more, hey, let's go through this training. Lots of contractions, lots of, fun questions, kind of things. That seems to be a trend right now.
Yeah.
So,
cool. Yeah. Awesome. Well, it sounds like we have similar, it sounds like we might be able to handle these sort of one-on-one from here. Hi, Dorothy. I didn't know you were here. That's great. Cool. Well, as we said in the call, we will be sending out a recording of this. So if there was something you missed, you can re-listen. Dan, how do people get in touch with you? And
Oh,
what kind
really?
of things can they be in touch with you for?
Well, I do the home studio consults. I do check audio for $25. If you go to my website, homevoiceoverstudio.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, find the specimen collection cup, click on that. It's a Dropbox for your audio. I want to listen to your raw audio and see what's going on within 5 seconds. I'm okay. You're either doing it right or you're doing it wrong. And if I think it's really bad and you really need to learn it, we can do a full consult and teach you how to properly record. And as we mentioned earlier, I do audition direction if you're interested in that. And of course, watch Voiceover Body Shop on Facebook, where we talk about home studio stuff and we interview great people. The show this week with John Bailey is hilarious.
Excellent.
Go to facebook.com/Voiceover Body Shop and you'll find us.
Excellent. Good. And Christi, how can people stay in touch with you and how can they continue to work with you?
I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, my website, which I know Diana posted for everyone. I'm also, I do have a 4-hour e-learning course that goes into great detail on all of this, where to find the work, how to reach out to people, the whole 9 yards, rates, everything. And we did post that in the chat box there. There's a link to that course. It's downloadable. There are 4 different modules, so you can break it up and they're not all at one time. So that's how you can keep in touch with me. My email is on my website. It's christibowen.com. It's Christi with an I. It's different. Christi with an I. I'm around. I have had to take a break from coaching for a while. I am trying to think about starting to get back into doing some e-learning coaching. I'm still working on that. It's building.
It sounds like you've really taken a lot of care and thought to put it into the questions that probably 90% of us have. Are addressed, so that's
so it's a lot of it's in there, but I mean, when it comes to performance coaching and stuff, I mean, I do offer that. I'm starting to offer it more. I'm still limiting the amount of time I do that, but I am doing some of that. So
excellent. Good. And if you want to get started, go to cut to the chase. Cut to the chase is sort of a thing here. So it seems like a lot of people on this call are working at a fairly advanced level, or are already on the journey, or out and doing it. So in terms of stuff that we have coming up at the dojo, I've mentioned them a couple of things. So first of all, you can put this in your calendar. The first Wednesday of every month, there's a question and answer. Ask the Sensei. Next month, Thompson Howell, who's one of our favorite dojo members, has written a book about trailer promo work. He's really great at that, so he's going to be talking about that realm. If you're on your way, or someone who's just starting, we have the You Should Do Voiceover Intensive, which comprehensive overview and a little taste of everywhere you can be making money doing voiceover. You can fill in gaps and keep moving forward. We also have our full 14-month training program called From Mystery to Mastery. So if you're halfway there and you just want to focus in and go into full training to get it done, we can talk about that. And then we also have the Nth Degree program, which is our Working Pro workout. We are starting this month, so if you're interested, touch base with Melina Bielefeld is our Nth Degree coordinator. And then if you could put Melina's email in there, you can fill out an application, we can talk more. If you want to talk about any of this, talk to Diana, set up a voiceover once-over, free 15-minute consultation, talking about where you're at and where you'd like to be and how we might be able to help. And then, Diana, make sure that I'm saying all the things, because we have so much going on this fall. Like everything's coming together. So you should do reserves in enrolling. Ask the Sensei. Next week, the 14th, we have our demo listen derby that we do with our demo producers, Brittany Cox and Ryan Ricks from Next Level Voice Demos. And basically, you send in your demo, and we run it through a gauntlet. We basically run your demo through the process of what a decision maker would do to listen, and we listen to everybody's. We narrow it down. We listen to those a little bit more in depth, and then we choose a few to really hone in on. But if you're anywhere in the demo process or redoing your demo, it's a really powerful way to see what it is, how it works, how it really works. We're kind but true, if that makes sense. So that's coming up. The VO Dojo Pro, the Dojo Go series is coming up this month as well. We do a Halloween contest, so that's coming up. You can win a free coaching. What else, Diana? Did I miss anything? Oh, the Fight Club audits. Yeah, so Fight Club is our working pro workouts that we do twice a month. If you're a working pro, demo, repped, and booking, you can apply to be a player, and then everyone can audit. Ezra Weiss is an amazing animation and anime director. Miraculous Ladybug is one of the things he works on. Is coming up next, and then Carly Silver, JJ Jurgens is coming back. So that's also a really great resource wherever you are on your journey to step it up and see what's really happening on the working pro level. So always something good happening at the dojo. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Love that people are getting, finding out about this, and please, talk about Fight Club, but just to people that already, cool, committed people who you want to be excited and challenged by. So, excellent. Well, we went a little bit over, so we're going to sign off.
Okay.
Christi and Dan, do you have a couple seconds to talk?
Yeah, I have a few minutes. Yeah, because there's a lot of really good questions in here that I definitely want to get answered.
So here's how this is going to roll, guys. So so imagine that this is the end of the call. So we're all going to mute ourselves and put our picture down. So it's as if no one was here, but keep your eye on the chat, because we will be typing in those answers, or I'm sorry, on the Q&A, because we'll be answering those questions. And then when we're done, we'll just say bye. And then if you missed anything, you can listen to the recording and check it out. So I don't know, maybe take 10 minutes or something like that if you have it. So,
sounds good. Yeah.
Christi, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. This has been great.
Yeah, and I'm excited to talk to everyone in Nashville. That's
too,
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, on my dates are all messed up. November. October 20th. Yeah, Tish is going to be our guest at Tennessee Voiceover Exchange, the meetup group I co-founded, and so we're excited to have you. Definitely.
Excellent. And guys, if you need anything, www.thevodojo is our website, and touch base with Diana at the VO Dojo. She will point you in the right direction. So guys, thank you so much. We'll answer questions for a second, and we'll see you next month, if not sooner.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.